Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Barr. I teach 6th grade reading, writing, and social studies at Mark Twain Elementary in Chicago. And I have a small confession to make. I am a Barbara, not a Barbara from Delaware. But for those of you who watch Abbott Elementary, you know what that means. And for those of you who don't, you need to start watching because it's a really good TV show. So Barbara is a veteran teacher. She runs a tight ship. She has a clear vision of what needs to be done to get her students to learn. And she's also slightly suspicious when her district comes up with new ideas intended to revolutionize teaching. During my 17 years teaching, my teaching evolves. It grows. It prospers over time when I'm in community with others. There is no silver bullet or simple fix to changing educational outcomes. All of our schools face very complex challenges. But I'm certain that meaningful change will not happen in isolation. Community is the key. As teachers, we know this to be true because we are so intentional at the start of every school year to foster strong learning communities within our classrooms. Y&I has been my learning community for these last 10 years. A couple years ago, I participated in a seminar called Adaptation, Literature, Film, and Society, led by Brigitte Pluker. Our work that year focused on cinematic adaptation and translation from a literary text to film. So you're taking a text that's comprised from words and changing it into a visual text, a text that tells a story in images. When a novel becomes a film, there's a change in medium. With that change in medium, what we explored in seminar was how filmmakers, in the process of translating, interpreted a text. The unit that I wrote about the play and film The Miracle Worker, while participating in that seminar, positions my students to think about the choices made in translation between the mediums, between taking the literary text across to film. With every passing year, I refine my work and my thinking. I have to give a small shout out to Dudley, who's wiping his eyes right now. Just 2 nights ago, I was finally able to watch a film that he recommended. So we were sitting down, shoot-balling ideas. What can I do a unit on? Because I've been participating for so long, I'm basically only teaching the curriculum units that I've developed here now. So I have to think, how can I be creative to insert something new? Just a passing comment. He said, there's a version of The Miracle Worker that's set in India, right? Because he has this wealth of knowledge about world cinema. And of course, I had no clue because when am I watching Bollywood films? I'm lucky I can get to work every day. So a small note in my notebook from a brief conversation will result in an important extension activity in the unit that Santiago will speak about in a moment. The small ripples that happen at Y&I become great waves when we return to our classrooms. I don't teach to the standards. I don't like that phrase. I treat the standards that I'm supposed to teach as a mandate. When I write, students will be able to, and something behind that phrase, I mean it. Like Annie Sullivan, who's the protagonist in The Miracle Worker, I'm tenacious in my approach to ensure that students learn what they're supposed to learn when they're entrusted to my care. My hope is that you see a glimpse of this in Santiago's thinking. At this time, I'd like to invite him to speak. Thank you.
Good morning. The Miracle Worker unit is written with us students in mind. It's written to connect with us readers and viewers of the play. As one of those students, I can say this unit does connect with me. I may not be blind nor deaf like Helen, but I still connect to this unit and the story of Helen Keller. The reason I connect to this play and unit is because it greatly shows our young minds many big and meaningful concepts. The concepts of grief, pain, failure, struggles, and even triumphs. Throughout the play, we see Annie's struggles while teaching Helen and Helen's personal struggles being both blind and deaf. We see their hardships together and how they grow as student and teacher. We also see how the family deals with Helen before Annie comes into Helen's life. We see them become closer to one another through their hardships with each other and eventually become fond of one another. We see change and development in people in this unit, and it was very meaningful. This all makes me understand what true hardships are and makes me connect to this unit. Comparing this to other topics I've learned about, this one is quite unique to other topics I've studied. Its uniqueness stems from us looking into the meaning of every little detail that is put into this play. We find the deeper meaning of specific parts in this play, and we were able to connect with this play and its characters. One of these things being when we looked into the opening credits. It's a scene that was added by the filmmaker and not in the original script of the play, and I think it was a great decision on the filmmaker's part. I say this because it adds more meaning to the play. The scene itself is of Helen walking into some hanging sheets and ends up wrapping herself in them. She is strapped. I think this scene says a lot, even though there are no words spoken. This scene shows a lot, although there wasn't much to see. Helen feels stuck in life. She feels trapped in this world due to her deafness and lack of vision, and this scene perfectly represents that. The sheet she gets stuck in represents her lonely life as a deaf and blind person. It represents Helen's life before Annie had begun teaching her. Then there's a dinner table scene. It is quite literally just a fight scene between Annie and Helen. It is just them fighting. No words are spoken in this scene. The scene shows Annie trying to show discipline to Helen since Helen's family pitied her because of her disabilities. This being Helen's first show of discipline, it was a great struggle for Annie. Reading this scene is not just boring, but it lacks to show what is actually happening compared to the film. In the film, we see these stage directions at work. We see how much Annie struggles to teach Helen. This scene being the biggest in the play to represent how Annie struggles teaching Helen. Another part of the play and the film that I would not have picked up on without Mr. Barr was the symbolism of keys. Around the beginning of the film, when Helen locks Annie in the room and hides the key, first hiding in her mouth, then in the water pump. Although there doesn't seem to be any symbolism in this specific scene, Mr. Barr helps us understand there is. The symbolism being Helen locking herself from Annie, not allowing Annie to teach her, and hiding the key that does so. The symbolism of keys doesn't just end there though. At the end of the movie, after Helen has spoken her first word, water, she hands Annie the key. This scene is also added by the filmmaker, which goes to show how much the filmmaker wanted to express the story's symbolism. The scene represents Helen finally unlocking herself to Annie by handing her the key. Although we had looked into other works of literature and filmmaking, we never went through it like we did while going through The Miracle Worker. The uniqueness also came from the way the teacher teaches it, and I credit Mr. Barr, my teacher at the time, who did a good job at teaching this unit to us students. He taught the unit enthusiastically, and his enthusiasm spread onto us. Because of this, we were able to have fun while learning the unit. He taught other units, of course, and did a good job doing so, but it was unlike the way he taught this specific unit. He helped every single one of us students understand the meanings and messages this topic teaches us. Mr. Barr also emphasized the idea of us looking into meanings of specific scenes. Overall, Mr. Barr was a great teacher and good at helping us students learn new things. The unit and his great teaching skills made the experience quite interesting and fun. Studying The Miracle Worker impacted me greatly by getting me to think about hardships and struggles. I learned that even though there will be hard times as I try to achieve something, just like Annie tried her best to teach Helen, I will eventually succeed and my hard work will not be in vain, just like Annie was eventually able to teach Helen. I was taught to look into the meaning of things, that even some of the simplest things can have great meaning, like the opening credit scene added by the filmmaker, the scenes with the key, and the dinner table scene. I learned a lot in this unit, and I hope to come across other units like this in the future. I appreciate being back here today and being here with you all. It's been quite the experience. Thank you.